Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to discuss historical background and development of trade union in India. And before that, I just wanted to tell you this is an important question. We are directly going to answer and discuss this question. Discuss the historical background and development of trade union in India. This is the question you might expect in the exam. So we'll understand what is the trade union first, and then we will review once again whatever we have discussed previous classes, and that will be helpful for your you can write this answer as your understanding, right? So trade union in India played a crucial role in protesting the rights and interest of workers and the development of trade union, and India can track back to the early 20th century, and industrialization began to take a shape. The industrial labor law, the passage of the Trade Union Act 1926, further strengthened the legal foundation of trade union in India. So that's the brief understanding. So let us understand why this trade union came into picture. So master and slave relationship we have discussed little in the previous class, but we'll elaborately understand so that it will be helpful for you to answer this question directly. So in order to get this Trade Union Act, there were a lot of people's effort were there. And what were the struggles? We have to understand historical background. We'll have to understand. For that, we'll have to go back to 18th and 19th century masters and slave relationship. So introduction, the master-slave relationship in 18th and 19th century was marked by extreme exploitation, forced labor, and lack of basic human rights, and slavery existed in many parts of the world, including India, Greece, Rome, Europe, and America, and UK, everywhere. And serfs were considered as a property, and no legal rights were given, and work were given. Once again, okay, and they were considered as a property itself only, had no right to and worked under the brutal conditions. As an industrial growth and industrial revolution progressed, the situations of workers remained deplorable, and long working hour, unsafe conditions, low wages, and no job security. This led to labor protections, which ultimately results in the formation of labor law to the protect of the workers. Slavery and forced labor across civilizations, especially when you look into slavery in ancient India. The ancient India slavery exists in various forms like dasas and dasis, bonded laborers, and they were ruling enlightened landlords and wealthy merchants and owner and slavers. They were slavering the employees. Many become slaves due to debt and punishment and war, captivity. So those who were taking a debts from the landlords become the slavers, and sometimes if you commit any of the criminal activities, then you in form of punishment they used to bring under the slavery. And war, captivity from different countries, if you captived certain people, they bring under the slaveries. That were the formation previously. And slavery was widespread across kingdoms like Mauryas, Guptas, and later under the Mughals as well. And how slaves were mostly used in household works, farmings, and constructions work, and treated very harsh working conditions, no freedom, no wages, and completely dependency on the masters. Slavery in ancient in Greek and Rome and UK, everywhere, the Greek and Roman elite owned land, numbers of slavers, and especially as we discussed in India, they do have a debt-ridden, and individuals were sold in a slavery. Prisoners were sold in the war prisoners were sold in the into slaveries, and slaves worked in agriculture, constructions, mining, and domestic areas, and treatment were terrible, and they treated harshly. They had no legal rights and could be punished or killed by their masters. Slavery in Europe and America in 18th and 19th century was terrible, and Europe and colonial powers such as Britain, France, and Portugal, Spain were involved in the transatlantic slave trade, and slavery were captured from Africa and transported to plantations, America and Caribbeans, where the United States, Brazil, Cameroon, Caribbeans, and European colonials. African slaves were forced to work in cotton, sugar, and tobacco plantations. Slaves were brutally beaten and denied education, lived in inhuman conditions, and no personal freedoms. This was the terrible situation they ever went through. In ancient period, across world, people were treated very badly, and they didn't had a freedom of expression, speech, and the laborer was treated as a commodity, not allowed to express their feelings. The industrial revolutions and the conditions of workers. So with the abolition of slavery in many countries in 19th century, industrialization brought new form and workers exploitations. Why were workers treated very badly? There were many reasons why they were treated. As we already discussed, extremely working hours was the one of the reason why they were treated, was like barely enough to survive. They didn't had any other options to go. So whenever the employer asked them to work for any number of hours, so and next comes there were no job security, and child labor, young children worked in factories and dangerous conditions, no safety measures, no labor rights and labor protections, and their demands for rights. The terrible working conditions led to worker protest and strikes against their employers, and labor union were formed to demand better wages, working conditions, and job security. And government were forced to introduce labor law, regulate the industry works, all that. And growth of labor laws in India and worldwide. Labor law in India, Indian workers were heavily exploited in textile mills and coal mills and railway constructions. After multiple protections and workers' movement, India saw the following laws in Factory Act 1981. Right, so 1981 regulated the working conditions for the women and children, and 1926 that the Trade Union Act, actually it was called Indian Trade Union Act. Later, after the amendment, they have made it the Trade Union Act. So allowed workers to form union and collective bargaining. Minimum Wages Act of 1948 ensured with their wages, and Industrial Disputes Act 1947 resolved the conflicts between the workers and employers. Labor law in Europe and the USA. United Kingdom Factory Act of 1833 limited the child labor, and the US Fair Labor Standards Act of 1938 established the minimum wages, and Germany also involved in the social insurance law 1880s and introduced the social security for the workers. International Labour Organization ILO and the Global Labour Rights, founded in 1919. International Labour Law, International Labour Organization worked into improve workers' rights globally. Forced Labor Conventions 1930, abolition slavery. Right organization, collective bargaining collections, allowed trade unions, and the minimum age conversions prohibited the child labor. So these are the important landmark articles and sections they brought into. And labor law cases we already discussed as Union Democratic Rights versus Union of India in previous class. That is issues worked under the 1882 Asian Games construction sites were not paid minimum wages, and judgment. Supreme Court ruled non-payment as a violation of fundamental rights. And we also detailedly discussed this Olga Tallis Bombay Municipal Corporation 1985 slum dwellers case. So go through that as well. And historical background of trade union in India. So we have discussed what is the conditions of the employees and employers relationship so far, and you'll have to write these points as well, and how slowly developed. Historical background: the pre-independent era, 1947, early industrialization need for the trade union. Before British rule, India was we were merely into agriculture, that is agrarian economy, and there were never there were very few industries, or we can say very few industries were there in India. And which industrial revolution in India? Industrials like textiles, jute, railway, and mining were introduced in India. The working conditions were harsh and low wages, as we already discussed, long working hours, no job security, leading to emergency of labor's property. Right. So next is initial worker movement. So 1915 to 1999, the first labor strikes was recorded in 1962 in Bombay, that's Mumbai, by textile mills workers and protesting for working conditions. Right. Second one is in 1980s, 1877, major strike occurs in the Emperor Mills, Nagpur, demanding for the higher wages. And 1899, the first organization labor strike was held in Bombay, where textile workers demanding better wages and working conditions. So that was the initial worker movement of between 1850 to 1900. So formation of early trade union between 1900 to 1920. Madras Labor Union considers the first organization trade union in India, that is established in 1918. Was founded by MP Wadia, and fight for the rights of Buckingham and Carnatic mills. And M.N. Roy and NP Joshi played a crucial role in advocating for the trade unions and labor rights. And All Indian Trade Union Congress was established in 1920, making it the first national trade union organization in India. Impact of Russian revolutions and ILO. So 1917 to 1920, the Russian Revolution started, inspired Indian workers to demand for a better working conditions, and India becomes a founding member for the International Labour Organization in 1919, which helped bringing International Labour Organization to India. So Trade Union Act 1926, trade union labor registrations. Before 1926, trade union had no legal recognizations, and their activities were often seen as a criminal conspiracy under British law. The Trade Union Act 1926 was passed, regulated trade union foreign formation, registrations, and activities. So the Act provided legal protection to registered trade union and grant them certain immunity from civil and criminal liabilities. Next is post-independence. After 1947, whatever the growth is happening within India. So that is 1947 to 1970. After independence, labor right was incorporated to Indian Constitution and fundamental rights, that is DPSP, or Directive Principle of State Policy, and several new trade union emerged, such as the Indian National Trade Union Congress, that INTUC, 1947, affiliated with Congress, and Hind Madhab Sabha, it's HMS, 1948, and Center of Indian Union. Indian Trade Union CITU, 1970, affiliated with CPIM. Nationalization and labor reforms, 1970s to 1990. In 1970s and 1990, many industries such as coal, steel, and banking were nationalized, leading to their rise of government and recognized trade union. The Industrial Dispute Act 1947 and the Factories Act 1948 strengthened the labor right by regulating the working conditions. Economic and liberalization, decline, and trade union in 1991 are present. So globalization and privatization started in 1991, led to the decline of trade union as many industries moved to contract labor and outstanding. So trade union faced challenges due to reduce of job security, automations, and economic reforms. And however, new IT and service sectors union emerged, such as NASSCOM and IT employer associations. That is the globalization, privatization, liberalization period, and current standard of challenges that trade and union India. Positive development. The government introduced Social Security Code SSC 2020 and protected workers' rights, and online platform and digital labor movement are growing. Challenges faced by trade union: declining membership due to contract and labor outstanding, political interference in trade and union activities, slow adoptions, and challenging labor law in the digital economy. So with that, we will conclude that trade union in 1926 played a crucial role in the growth of labor movement in India. While trade union were strong during the pre-independence and social eras, economic liberalization and globalizations have led their decline. However, they still play a key role in ensuring the wages and safe working conditions and workers' rights, and trade union must adopt to modern challenges by embracing technology, digital platform, and new labor policy remains the relevant in 21st century. That's all for the day. Next class we will be discussing more on BEAR Act, and this is actually we are going to get into the chapter that is the Trade Union Act 1926. So which is going to be a very, very important thing, and we will be discussing by seeing the BEAR Act. So do like my videos and subscribe my channel for more updates. And if you have any doubts, comment, please subscribe and comment below. Thank you and have a great day. Bye.